So we took a little bit of a break, but we're back in the sugya of business and halacha. So I was speaking to a very successful businessman. I said to him, we're holding by business and halacha shurim. I think we've given about 40, 41 shurim, maybe even more. I don't know what we're holding in the shurim of business and halacha, going through so many different topics. But there's so much more still to do. Give me an example of something that I should speak about. Baruch Hashem, we've spoken about, I don't even know, 40 something days that we've spoken about. Most days were its own topic. I don't remember all the subjects we went through. Can I know? But Lamaisa, give me something that we haven't spoken about. So he said to me an idea, which also I think was very, very good. And I don't know if we're going to get to everything as we never normally do anyway, but just the ideas. He said, what about the idea of hiring workers, having the relationship between a boss and a worker, and the halachas that could be negeya in such a case? I said, that's interesting. I remember receiving a few shilas, for example, from a guy in America who's working for a company, and we're not going to get to this shaila because this is very complicated, but just to realize the shaila that could be negeya is a guy who works for a company, and they're training him in, basically, as he's working and making money and getting commission, he's being trained in. Now he thinks to himself, I could do this at night by myself. I could figure out to make a bit more gelt at night by doing my own thing. Am I allowed to do that halachically? If I was taught and I was trained by the company that I'm working, am I allowed to do my own work or get my own clients or not? By the way, it's a very similar shaila. If, for example, you call a taxi company. That's a simple example. Take a taxi company, you call a taxi company, and the taxi guy comes. And he takes you to the airport, whatever it is. And he says, by the way, if you need a ride back from the airport on the way back, here's my private card. Here's my number. Now hold on a minute. I called the company. Is he allowed, or am I allowed, to hire him if really the company wouldn't want me to do that? Because the only way I got to this guy was through the company. Maybe they did advertising. Maybe they had PR. Who knows what they spent on getting me to him? And now all of a sudden, very nice that I got to him. How did I get to him? Through the company. And now I'm taking a private cab through him. Is that allowed? Is one allowed to do that or not? What's that?
Get experience from every job.
Get experience every job, but my question is, while I'm working for this company, can I at night use my experience to help another company to make myself more money if it might be competition for that company, and the company I'm working will not be muskim to that? Again, I'm not going to go to it because it's very, very complicated and makes much enough kamina on different companies, different experiences, all sorts of shilas. But I thought, let's spend a couple of minutes, mamish not long, just to understand a couple of shilas, maybe 3 shilas we'll discuss today. 3 shilas that's negeya to employer and employee relationships and the halachas that are negeya. So let's start number 1. What's the din with, and this is negeya both to a boss, to an employer, or an employee to someone who's working, what is the din of changing the terms of work, of employment during work? In other words, am I allowed, if I'm the boss, am I allowed to change the terms and conditions of the work that I hired somebody to work as in the middle of his work, in the middle of his contract? Is that mutter or is it asa, and how does that apply? So all of this comes from a Gemara. The Gemara in Bab Metzia that I involve on the base talks a lot about this sugya, and the Gemara said by the Torah brings it down in Chosh Mishpah and Shin Lamed Gimel, and the Gemara says that once the worker has started his work, then the boss is no longer allowed to change any terms that were agreed on originally, unless he has permission from the worker, of course. Right? This, by the way, applies even if the terms and conditions were not put in writing. There was no formal contract. There was no kinyan in that case over there. But at the end of the day, if I agreed that this guy will be working a certain amount of hours, I cannot change it once he started working, unless, of course, he agrees to it. Then there's no problem whatsoever. If there was writing in that case, in other words, there was writing, and I made a kinyan and there was a contract or whatever, then even before the worker starts working, I'm still not allowed to change it. So again, if there was a contract before he starts working, you cannot change it. If there was no contract and no kinyan and nothing put into writing, then before he starts working, you can change it. Once he starts working, you can no longer change it. However, the Gemara tells us in Baba Kama Kufta Zayin that these halachos are only negeya to a contractor that's being paid for a specific job. Whereas someone who is being paid by the hour, he's a wage worker, he's getting paid by the hour, so therefore, or by the day for that matter, whatever it may be, he's allowed to quit his job at any time, in any situation, without any reason, even in the middle of the day, as I state in Shulchan Aruch, and as is the psak of the Gemara, because he's being paid by the hour or by the day. So there's enough gemina if someone is being paid by the day, by the hour, or he's being paid for a specific job, whether the terms of employment are allowed to be changed in that case. Let's talk about another case. I see that I've got a sales company, and I need another salesman. I need someone else working in the company. I need a geschmacky guy that's going to go out there, dynamic guy, is going to go make sales for my company. I need more. I see my competition company, or I see any company with a great salesman. I'm going to go over to him and offer him a much better job. I'm going to give him better conditions, better wages, better payment, better everything, because he's going to work for me. He's going to make me more money. Halachically, am I allowed to offer somebody else a job if they are working for someone else? That is the shaila. So the halacha is, and again, all of this is Gemara's and Shulchan Aruch and Choshen Mishpat, but just to give you the Rosh Prokim, just to give you the ideas. The halacha is, I am allowed to sort of get another worker from another employer, as long as he hasn't yet obligated himself to work for the other company with a kinyan. So for example, if I know that he's going to work there, but he hasn't actually had a contract, they've never formulated anything, they haven't got any kinyanim, nothing actually happened yet, he hasn't started yet, so I can go over to him and say, by the way, my company can offer better salaries or whatever it may be. That's not a problem in that case. Or I can also offer a worker at a very tempting offer, as long as it only applies after his terms of employment are finished. In other words, if he's only employed for the year, and at the end of the year his employment is over, I could say to him, by the way, at the end of the year, come talk to me because I can offer you better salary, better wages, better conditions, whatever, because that's fine, because it's only going to be chal at the end of the working. It's not going to be in the middle. I'm not causing a loss to the place where he is working. However, to go and offer someone better conditions, better money, whatever it may be, that's working for somebody else, that's going to cause a direct damage to another company. Somebody spoke to me last week. He says to me that he mamish experienced this. He has a salesman, he has a company, and he has a salesman, and somebody, saw this guy being as a great guy, and he chopped him away, and he left the company in the middle. He left his boss with a huge problem, because he had one of his main salesmen who was running around the country doing all sorts of sales for him. He was stuck. That caused a direct damage. It happened to be done by a guy, so there's nothing to do about it, but I call upon him to realize that in a chanami, you can't just take somebody else's worker from them, leaving them with a direct loss in the middle of the terms of employment just because you offered them a better salary or a better situation. So that's another thing. One last shaila for today. I said we're going to go through 3 shailas. We did 1, we did 2. Shaila number 3, maybe it's connected to the sugya of being paid by the hour, which we discussed already, but I thought this is a very, very interesting case. Am I allowed, as a paid worker, working for someone, to go on a diet? What's the shaila? What should be the nafkamina to my work? Like, I'm allowed to go on a diet, what's the problem? So the answer is, if the diet affects my ability to do what I normally do in the proper way, is that halachically mutter to do when I'm working for somebody else? And you see, by the way, from here, the sensitivity that we need to have when we work for other people or when we employ other people. How careful we have to be from Choshen Mishpat, because one small thing can make the difference. So what's the answer to this shaila? Okay, what's the answer? So the Rambam, there's a Mordechai Rambam, at the end of Hilchas Schiris, the Shulchan Aruch and Choshen Mishpat quotes it in Shin Lamed Zayin Sif Yud Ches. Look up the Shulchan Aruch. He quotes the Rambam at the end of Hilchas Schiris, where the Rambam says, and it comes from a Tosefta. All right, the Rambam says, the Shulchan Aruch paskins, that a worker is not allowed to take upon more work at night and then work during the day, or starve himself during the day in order to make sure even that his kids have what to eat, or hire himself out at different times if it's going to affect the work that he does. Shulchan Aruch paskins, that's gneva. It's pure stealing from your boss, because you are weakening your mental abilities, you're weakening your physical abilities in that case, and since you're not going to work in full capacity, therefore you are stealing from your boss. As I state in Shulchan Aruch, which is a Rambam, which is a Tosefta as well. Comes along the Ramah, and the Ramah says, and Shinam Gimel Sifhei, the Ramah continues, and he says, not only that, not as also to deprive yourself of sleep or of food or anything like that, but even to take on additional work, even if a person needs it for parnasa, very nice, but to take on additional work, which is going to deprive yourself from your exercise time, from your free time, from even your sleep, or anything that could be happening in that case, the Ramah paskins, that is a problem. Of course, if it needs to be done for halachic, for parnasa reasons, then you go to your boss and you tell him and you ask him, and if he agrees, then everything's okay. But to realize the sensitivity that we need to have when we are working for others, when we're being paid by others, or even when we are paying others, to see that the Torah has what to say about every situation. Be'ez Hashem, tomorrow we'll try to go through a brand new sugya. B'siyata d'shmaya. Have an amazing day.